Good morning, everyone. At the outset, I express my gratitude to the Honorable Chairman of this esteemed institution, the respected Principal of this institution, as well as the coordinator of the program, for having given me this wonderful opportunity to be with you this morning and discuss something related to best practices in higher education, with a special reference to learning environment and 21st century skill sets. So before that, I would like to discuss what we say best practices, particularly in higher education. What is the need to adopt best practices in higher education institutions? Of course, nowadays both the education institutions and the government suffer with regard to so many things. There are plenty of pressures both on the education institutions and on the government also. What are the forces or what are the pressures the government and the education institutions are facing? So you may not know that there is a gap between the government's expectation and the public's expectation on the capability and the productivity of the educated mass. So the person who comes out from a higher education institution, he should produce something useful to the society. But there is a question. So that is also the gap, ever widening gap between the government and the society in terms of their expectations with regard to the productivity of the educated mass. And not only that, nowadays education becomes very costly. So it is not so easy to pursue higher education. And also the students, they have to spend much. But it is quite doubtful when they come out with degrees in their hand, how could they are going to get back what they have already spent? So that is the other one problem. Then another one, unless otherwise the learners are equipped with latest skills, particularly the computing skills, the communication skills, their language skills. So they are not able to perform their duties even if they are given an opportunity to work in an organization. And that's why the institutions like NAC, they insist quality. That is insisted by the institutions like NAC. So how we are going to improve the quality of education? So government also insists quality in education. NAC is also insisting quality in education. So how to improve the quality of education? Because unless otherwise the learners are well equipped with the skill sets, namely the computing skill, the communication skill, the social skill, the language skills. There are so many things. The list is very long. It is very difficult. And that's why there are so many regulations. Every now and then the government introduces new regulations. Unless otherwise you fulfill the requirements as per the new regulations, the teacher cannot continue the service. So that is also a problem. So under these circumstances, what best practices the education institutions can adopt so that the learners are well equipped in terms of communication, in terms of language, in terms of social interaction, in terms of computing ability. So that is what we say problems or challenges faced by the higher education institutions. Yes, I have already told you the formal system creates a gap, a widening, ever widening gap between rich and poor. Modern education, what we say that higher education, that makes rich become richer and poor become poor. That is called formal education. So in this context, I would like to say something about de-schooling society by Ivan Illich and Everett Reimer. Ivan Illich and Everett Reimer, they protested in those days, saying that formal education extends the gap between rich and poor. The education becomes costly, poor are not able to go to education, only rich people can offer for education, like that. Ivan Illich and Everett Reimer, they protested against the formal system of education, and they brought out their philosophy called de-schooling society. So under these circumstances, how we are going to introduce innovations and creativity in the education institutions? So that is what we say best practices. Unless otherwise we adopt best practices in higher education, definitely we cannot fulfill the expectation of the government, again the expectation of the public. So that's why it is a must that we have to adopt best practices, creativity, innovation in higher education. So let us see one by one. So now I would like to discuss on learning environment. So learning environment is nothing but the psychological and physiological, not physiological, psychological and the physical environment of the learning, such learning institutions. So here what I mean, the infrastructure of the institution. So there should be best facilities be available there in the learning institution. For example, infrastructure facilities, classrooms, laboratories, library, playground, transportation, everything should be better. Again the same in terms of faculty. So nowadays teachers become facilitator for learning. So in those days teachers they have their limited roles. Nowadays teachers have more expectation on the part of the teachers. The public have more expectation because as per the modern American definition for education or a better definition for teaching. So that definition says facilitating, it is not teaching. So teacher, what we usually say teaching, but the modern American definition for teaching, for what we say not teaching, that education, the role of the teacher. So he is going to facilitate. He has to provide better interaction with the students. So he should provide better interaction with the students. That means there should not be gap between the teach and the taught. So the gap between the teach and the taught should be brought down. Students should enjoy freedom. Teachers should also be freely. Teachers should also move freely with the students. Say interaction. And not only that, the teacher facilitates learning using the technology, using the tools. So, education technology. So, it is a support to the teacher. So, technology is a tool in the hands of the teacher. So, technology cannot replace the teacher. It can only supplement the teacher. Technology is the master. Technology is the servant. Teacher is the master. The master should know how to handle with the servant. If the master doesn't know how to deal with the servant will take over the master. Likewise, the teacher should know how to handle the technology, how to handle the tools. That is a must. So, in such a way, learning environment has also brought out so many challenges in terms of the administration, again in terms of the teachers, again in terms of the students. How? Students also suffering. They are expected of more. In those days, just memorization. If you write the examination, your results will be declared, and if you get through in the examination, there is a guarantee that you can become a better future. But nowadays not like that. Once the student got educated, then unless otherwise he is proficient with the skill sets. As I have already told you, the skill means the computing skill, the communication skill, the social skill, even the language skills. He cannot get an opportunity to serve in any organization. So there are so many technologies, technical portals are readily available for the learners, namely Creative Commons, Flickr, MyFace, Wikipedia, Coursera, etc. Of course, there are so many such portals are readily available for the students. How you are going to make use of the resources available, then you can get yourself more benefited of. How, in what way these portals are helpful to the learners? Of course, such portals are what we say open education resources. It is openly available. Why we say it is open? Because it is free in terms of cost, it is free in terms of time, it is free in terms of rules and regulations, it is free in terms of place. So it is beyond rule bound, time bound, place bound, even finance bound. It is available. And above all, you are totally free in making use of such materials without attracting any copyright issues. You are given total freedom in using such open education resources, reusing, distributing, redistributing, translating, whatever you want to do, you can do. You are given such permissions or such freedom. So using such a freedom, you can make use of all the set portals. Of course, I would like to say something about open education resources. Of course, only in the year 2002, there was an international level event wherein people discussed with regard to their learning materials produced, supported with multimedia applications like audio clipping, video clipping, animation, graphics, stills, and how such material could be created and how such materials could be distributed and how such material be utilized and how such material be sponsored. So like that people discussed as the output of the international level discussion on such open material. They have given the word open education resources. And again, I am very happy to share with you. Even the year 2002, the International Institute of Education Planning at Paris started a net forum inviting experts, academics, administrators, delegates, and so many big people. So they were the members of the group. Started in the year 2002, and it continuously performing. And I am very happy. I joined the net forum discussing on open education resources even in the year 2002, and I continued at least over 15 years. And again, all of a sudden, I got an invitation from the UNESCO to represent the Indian region with regard to the development of open education resources in our area for an international event called 2012 Open Education Resources Congress. So 2012 OER Congress that was held at the headquarters of UNESCO there in Paris. So I was the Indian representative to that international event. So wherein we made a declaration that is called a 2012 OER Congress Declaration. Of course, that has given so many directions or so many directives to the world governments, particularly the governments of the member countries of UNESCO. So just to say something about a few of the open education resources now readily available for general public, particularly for the learners. So people learning at different levels of education, even primary, secondary, tertiary students, or even the general public, can make use of such open education resources. Just to say a few, Creative Commons. Of course, Creative Commons works. It is made available for the user to build upon legally and to share. So it is open. So you produce and you openly provide it to the learners. That's why it is called open education resources. So it seems 1.4 million people are working in this area. They get license under various Creative Commons. So Creative Commons, so it, of course, Creative Commons, a group of people, they create materials for the use of different kinds of learners. Of course, 1.5 million people who have already been working under Creative Commons. Of course, this number may be not an updated one, perhaps updation may be even still higher. Then MySpace. So MySpace adds 5 million members a month. So every month 5 million members join there with MySpace. And it is also quite surprising to see 2 blocks are created every second. Once in every 2 blocks in every second. You just think of the creation of blocks. Wikipedia, it is quite popular among all people. So 5.7 million people are using it. What we say, 5.7 million articles have already been created and made available free for the general public, and you can openly edit such materials. So it is there is one statistic says 374 million visitors per month make use of Wikipedia. Maybe in the year 2009, it is more than 10 years. Now it should be multiple times. Of course, in the year 2009, the number is 374 million. Now perhaps it must be some more multiples. So like that, what we say, these are all a few open education resources made available free to the public. So it is up to you how you are going to explore the availability of such materials and how you are going to use such materials. So that is also a challenge. So let us see, let us continue.